when I was in my 30 years old, I made fun of hippos, the highest paid person's opinion. What is a hippo now? Now that I'm getting up there with my seniority, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like these guys who are like the CEOs of big companies, they've motherfuckers have earned it. They've made some good calls and bad calls, and they've seen it all. They've been in the industry so long that they see the patterns that the junior folks miss.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine. So, yeah, maybe you can explain who is Peep Laja. You can give us the surface level answer, or you can go really deep and philosophical. Your choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, the really brief way to put it is, I'm a businessman. So that would be the extremely short answer. So yeah, I've grown 3 bootstrap businesses, and I have some failed one in the past. I also been in various roles of I've worked as a software engineer, in nonprofits as a professional fundraiser. I've worked in advertising sales, but I've been in marketing since 2007. And my business viewpoint is that I'm a marketer first. Some founders are product first or sales first. I'm a marketer, and so I've been having to learn all the other stuff on the way.
I actually didn't know you were a developer. Is that kind of come in handy?
Yeah, for sure. In the early years, when I first started as a marketing consultant, I also built websites. So I built websites, optimize the CRO, drive traffic, SEO. So it's been real handy in the early days of my career. Today, how it's really handy is, front end or back end. I speak the same language with them, my engineering. I mean, obviously, I'm not on the same level with them, but conceptually, I can assess the difficulty of what it takes to build something, and the process that's involved. Yeah, I was into computers from very early age, and so I had this when I was in 6th grade or so. My mom bought me this IBM XT 12 megahertz computer, and it had no graphics card, so I couldn't play games. So all it could show is like text. And so I taught myself to program at the age of I guess it was 11, 12, to program computer games so I could play on that computer. So necessity, mother of all things. And I got to college and I studied IT. And once I graduated, I was a developer. And then after being a developer for a year, I realized that I fucking hate this. I'm not hate, but I was like, this is not for me.
Gotcha.
So I changed my careers.
Maybe you can just give us like the super quick whistle stop tour, couple of minutes from. I guess most people know you from CXL as the kind of conversion guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the main business, like it started from the blog, right? So maybe you can give us the last kind of summary of 10 years of businesses you ran over the last 10 years.
So like 2009 to 2011, I had a SaaS company called Traindom, and it failed. And once it failed, I told myself, okay, this next business, I'm gonna do it differently. I'm gonna build an audience first, and then figure out what I'm gonna sell. Because my SaaS company failed, so I was bootstrapped, and I had no audience. Like I was like shouting in the desert, nobody was listening. And so I started a blog, and got relatively quick success because I hooked myself onto this relatively new and up and coming thing called conversion optimization. Of course, conversion optimization had been around for a number of years, but as a category of service, this was the early days. And so I played a big role then in growing the category. And so very quickly, within 1 year, people started to email me and they wanted to buy my services. Oh, help me with conversion optimization. And so I built the agency around me. And when I got into conversion optimization, obviously I was a guy who knew a little bit about it. I had been doing it for a number of years, but among other marketing things, like I was also doing SEO and PPC and all these other things. But I set myself a goal. Okay, if I'm running a CRO agency, I also need to know a lot about it, because otherwise it's like I'm scamming people for money here. And so I set myself a goal to become the best in the world at it. And so I took it seriously. So one is like read everything you can get your hands on, talk to everybody in the industry. There were a lot of people in the industry that were far more experienced than I was, and I managed to recruit many of them as my mentors. And obviously, then doing the work, doing the client work, and helping them with this stuff. And so in 2016, they recognized me as the most influential conversion optimization person in the world. And so I was like, okay, I achieved this goal. It's a good proxy as any. But what happened at the same time is like I got quite tired of consulting. I had been a consultant by then for 10 years, and really explaining the same shit for the 7,000th time. And just anybody asks me to explain what the p-value is once again, I will fucking kill them. It's and I burned out in a way. Like I talked so much about conversion optimization, conference, podcasts, webinars, and writing content, because really I built the business on content marketing. And I just lost interest. Like, I mean, not lost interest is the wrong way to put it, but like I just ran out of juice in a way. And so, but then there I was still the CEO of this conversion optimization agency. It's a bad problem to have. And then I explored what else could we do. Like could I add another revenue stream over here? And so decided to build an e-learning business, because most people, our agency is pretty expensive, and most people in our email list couldn't afford it. So built an e-learning business, teaching people how to do first only conversion optimization. Now CXL is like all things digital marketing. And today the e-learning business, so started 2016, it's like 5 years old. It's bigger now than the agency in terms of revenue. It's making more money. It has less people because agencies are people heavy. Online learning scales. And about 2019, so 2 years ago, I stumbled upon this problem, optimizing revenue for the e-learning business, which was we have a lot of copy heavy pages, 60 courses, webinar landing pages, PPC landing pages, and in order to increase the conversion rate on those pages and significantly impact our revenue trajectory, I needed to improve the words, because it's copy heavy, and copy is what drives conversion, most of it. But what's wrong with the words? You can only make something better if you know what's wrong with it, like what needs improvement. And I looked for a tool that would help me do this, and I found nothing. And so traditionally, scratch your own itch. That's how people start companies. And since I've had a failed SaaS company in my past, I was like, hey, I would love to have another go at it. And also, it's very rare to stumble upon a business problem that hasn't been solved yet.
Yeah, indeed.
It's rare. And so like, gotta jump on it. Didn't really need to build another company, but here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, that's a really nice launching off point. Thanks for the kind of the lay of the land. So that's kind of what I'm interested in, how you think about building a business now. I mean, you've built a couple of businesses. I'm sure you've got punched in the face, metaphorically speaking, along the way. You've had a lot of setbacks. So when you had this initial kind of eureka moment, you think, hang on a minute, this thing doesn't exist. You were scratching your own itch. You were trying to solve your own problem. How did you go about kind of validating whether this was a good idea, instead of like, okay, I'm going to chuck like 100 grand at this, I'm going to hire some people, I'm going to build a thing and then hope it works? Like, what was that next step to kind of validate?
So having worked years in experimentation, and what conversion experimentation really is user research plus experimentation, that process and stuff as well. So super familiar with all the user research methodologies, anywhere from lean startup to jobs to be done and everything in between. So that was the first thing. Like as soon as I had the idea and saw there's an opening in the market, well, the question is, does anybody want this? Does anybody care about this? And I I recruited maybe about 30 people that were that had copy heavy pages, trying to get more conversions. So people who were really responsible, owning the copy portion of the website, and in-house people, not like freelance copywriters. And so the problem discovery, is this a problem? Is this a perceived pain point? And then we had drawn up like prototypes, non-working, meaning like just essentially a set of screenshots of how this product would work potentially, and we show them then the prototype. Like, hey, would this solve your problem? What do you think? What else do you want it to do? What are you wondering about? Thousand hesitations, things like that. And it was interesting to see. We got like a really good, overwhelmingly positive approach, like feedback. Not everybody wanted it, but majority said very good things, and also the type of things that they wanted the tool to do. It was like there's clear patterns. Oh, so then we had our first product roadmap. Okay, in order to go to market with this before it's market ready, it needs to do all these things. And it took us a fair amount of time. I want to say it took us about 12 months or like 11 months from the interviews to first private beta. We made our first dollars. So interviews were in February and December of 2019. We made our first dollars and learned all the things. And then May 2020 was like the actual public launch. It was like, here we are, use our product. Yeah, it took quite a bit of money to get there, but also got to take risk. I'm very comfortable with risk. That's one of my personality traits.
That was actually going to be one of my questions, and I would assume it's just your own cash that you've made from your other businesses you just put in yourself. So how do you kind of balance profitability and kind of being aggressive in growth? Was it like, I'm going to chuck 100 grand at this, and then like this thing needs to be profitable within its own right, or are you like, actually no, I think this is a massive opportunity, got some more money, I want to be aggressive? Like, how do you think about that?
It's a delicate balance. So yes, using our own money, it's bootstrapped. So I built the e-learning business on top of the agency profits. So agency funded it, and it lost money for the first 9 months. It was losing money, and now I have two companies producing money, profitable and growing. So basically, they founded Wynter. And to date, I think we've invested about 600,000 or so of our own money. The biggest source is, of course, development costs. It's like the biggest source of cost. We also have the thing where we also we're kind of a panel company with a software layer on top. So the panel cost is an ongoing cost, and increasing the panel and recruiting people to the panel. That's all cost. Of course, if you look at what's happening in the VC arena, you know, if you're a famous entrepreneur, you raise 10 million on an idea, which is if you're a proven entrepreneur, he's done something great. This just the other day, the founder of Twitch, like he sold Twitch for $1 billion, and then he started this Atrium that failed spectacularly, but then based on a PowerPoint deck, he got 10 million. So that's the starting point for a lot of companies. And then you start investing in growth and so on and so forth. Or I think $4 million seed rounds are very common today. I mean, today's atmosphere, I guess the standard maybe a year or two years ago was more like a 2 million seed was already pretty good. And so most of that money goes into engineering for SaaS companies. So considering those amounts, like putting 600,000 is not crazy town. It's actually very modest, and as I say, it's mostly went to engineering. I'm not even paying myself from Wynter at all. We got a small team. Haven't invested anything really in paid acquisition or SEO. So now plotting the company's growth here is like, okay, so in order to grow this, how can we do this if we have no money for paid acquisition yet? Being competitive in terms of SEO takes a while because in the beginning you don't have enough backlinks, you don't have domain ranking, you can't rank for shit. So I really haven't even tried like going in all in with content marketing because like we're really not competitive in terms of our ranking power. We will get there. I'm building backlinks and all that stuff. So the question is like, well, I need leads today and I need awareness. So how do I get leads and awareness? And so one is like piggybacking off of existing assets. CXL email list, the obvious place where to advertise. Hey, Wynter exists now. And second is my own personal social media following, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. And because I've been active on social for a number of years, I've cultivated a following. And so by the time Wynter launched, public launch, before that official announcement in newsletters and so on, we had already gotten like 1,000 signups. This was all through my personal LinkedIn and Twitter. So personal social media, it's not just a vanity metric. I mean, follower count is, but like if it's actual real people, it can actually drive some impact. Yeah, and adding to that, so this is existing assets, and it's like I need leads today, but I can't rank, so I can't capture emails, but I need emails. I'm a big fan of content marketing and email marketing. These are the channels that I know really well. And so I said, okay, what can I do? And I also know events. I said, I'll do an event. I'll do an online event because it's the Corona times. And started this thing called Winter Games. Just actually ended the 7th one yesterday. Thank you. And so we've been doing this, yeah. So seven events. We do it once a month. So I guess it's been 7 months we've been doing this. Really, time flies. And on average, we've gotten like I want to say like 900 attendees per event. Some events 1,800, some events like 700. So in that range. And of course, this is top of the funnel. It's not like the warm leads ready to buy, but building awareness. And awareness is half the battle. The fact that people know that you exist goes a really fucking long way. And so in that sense, and then on the way of this 1 year of doing this now, like 1 year the product has been on the market, the more you figure out who is your actual target customer. My hypothesis for who it is when we launched was wrong. And a new target market has emerged. And so I'm also tweaking the Winter Games topics accordingly. What's interesting to this audience? So I get more, relevant, interest-based, top of the funnel leads.
Yeah, super interesting. The feedback economy is really, really interesting. And you come from an experimentation background. You understand research. You understand the importance of feedback. I think for me, when I really got into CRO and I just saw how powerful feedback can be, getting people to actually tell you if your thing is good or bad is so, so valuable. How have you you just said there, you're iterating the Winter Games and you're learning as you go, but how do you kind of make sure that you bake in as much feedback as you possibly can into everything you're doing? Like, for example, I know you do all the demos, you do the onboarding calls, you're speaking to as many people as you can, but like, how do you really make sure you're getting as much feedback as you possibly can?
Mm-hmm. Well, qualitative feedback is the richest source of feedback there is, where you can have a conversation and ask questions. So also from the experience that from CXL, where we used live chat from the get-go, I knew how valuable live chat is. So we launched with live chat, and my God, I got to tell you, it's our number one sales channel. It's number one, of course, it's a support channel, and it's a number one source of feedback, really. So if I can choose one user research method like tool, just live chat, man. It's so info-rich.
And is that because people is that because people are basically saying like, hey, I'm on your site, I want to know this specific thing, and it's not there, and that's why it's so useful? Or is it like we just want to speak to somebody quickly? Like, why is it so
yeah. I mean, it's a low friction way to get your problem solved, or if you're wondering about something, because like scheduling a demo, it's a high pressure situation. It's a commitment. Definitely. So most people, depending on the company size, but there's a friction in there, like, and also they're long, and like, then they're gonna sell you, and like, so not everybody wants it. But live chat also, it's anonymous. You just ask questions, and there's no pressure. They won't harass you. They won't follow up with you. It's just very low friction way to do it. And I'm not for chatbots. Because chatbots still are idiots. They're like, for me personally, they're a really frustrating experience. Whenever they have chatbots on a website and I need to go through the support to sales and ask a question, it's a night. It's just so bad. So hence I have made it call to it's live. It's live. It's humans. Of course, my team is small, so not every time zone across the world has real time chat, which is a problem. So with CXL, we've solved it. It's like every time zone is covered, but we'll get there. Given enough time, you can solve a lot of problems. So I'm not worried about that. So US time zone, it's usually me actually on live chat, and then I have people in Europe. So live chat is one, and I guess an even better source is the sales calls, because now these people are raising arm. I'm ready to entertain paying for this. I'm a believer of transparent pricing. So it's like you go to Wynter.com, the pricing is there. So if you take a call with me, you know how much this costs. So we're really not. Again, I hate going into the demo and they say, "Oh, this is just $75,000." Thank you very much. I just wasted my time here. So if you think my stuff is expensive, I don't want to talk to you, and then you don't want to talk to me either. So everybody wins. Some transparent pricing, and so on the demo. And some days I do like 6 a day. It's a lot. It's a lot, but since the early days of my career, the way I've been doing this is that I can do anything for a short while, and the short while can be years. For a number of years, I can do anything. I have worked without pay for 2 years in my life because I wanted to change my career. After software development, it wasn't sitting on me. What job can I get? I don't have a degree or a skill. So I worked 2 years for free to build up skills in another domain. So I can play the long game. Similar thing, I can do demos all day long. This are my also this is I want to be in these calls because these are my customers. Who are you? What do you want? How can I help you? Things like that. And then the objections, the questions, the reality. Why does this matter to you? And all the questions they ask. And then what happened was that in the beginning, massive growth in learning through sales demos. And then they plateau because you start, the issues start repeating. And that's the moment where if I'm feeling, let's say, a little bit bored in sales meetings, bored is maybe the wrong way. It's like, I'm a master of this demo because I know what you can ask. I know every answer. I'm smooth. I've explained it 1,000 times. I can make a compelling pitch, right? So that's a sign. Okay, now I'm ready to bring somebody on. I can teach it. I know exactly how it's gonna go. I can make a process of how the pitch should go, how the demo should go, because I've tweaked it a bunch. So last week I finally added on sales, customer success, who is now also doing demos, and so I'm winning back some time to work on say more strategic issues.
Totally. Same thing. Whenever I speak to a potential client, it's so interesting to get the objections. And once you've done it like 56 times, it's over and over again. And like we're an agency, and so you've ran agencies and you do presentations and you have a big deck and the ones that they're just like, eyes are rolling, they disengaged, the ones that do work. So just having that, interaction with potential clients is absolute gold.
Exactly.
Could I ask you about, actually, maybe we should just explain. I don't think we really explain what Wynter is properly.
Well, really, it helps you understand what in your messaging and copy on your website is working and what's not working. What's helping you get more customers and what's turning customers away. That's the summary of it. And you will learn this through feedback from the people you're actually selling to or marketing to. So, as I said, we're a panel company with a software layer. So we have a database of people. And they're organized into job functions and industries. So SaaS marketing directors, e-commerce, customer support people, and etc. And so if you're in B2B, which is our focus, if you're in B2B, you sell to people based on titles. Everybody knows which title they're selling to, or at least job function. We're selling to marketing, we're selling to sales, HR. And so we can put, oh, you need selling to HR? What size companies? What industries? Boom, here you go. And so you will learn from the people, the target audience you have, what in your messaging makes people lean in, like, ooh, tell me more. And what about it is like, they're like, I don't give a shit about this. It's so boring. And so that's specifically about how compelling your pitch is, but also on the broader spectrum. So really, this is about competitive strategy, because everybody has a fuck ton of competition. Agencies have the most competition of all because it's the easiest business to start. you and I, we can set up as another agency this afternoon. Just need to register the website, and boom, we're an agency. That's it. That's all it takes, really. And then SaaS, e-commerce, same thing. It's crazy town. 400 email marketing tools, 450 CRM tools, and so on and so forth. And so, what are you saying that tilts somebody's decision in your favor, and especially in B2B? Because you cannot win the feature war, really. Like whatever feature you have that is interesting and attractive to the customers, everybody else will have it shortly too. And so it's really most companies are not competing on innovation and product or product-based differentiation. You're really competing on brand messaging and brand-based differentiation. And the choice for the buyer, like why choose you? That's messaging. And if you want to compete and win in a saturated category, you need to be able to measure and have data on what is it that my audience, the very specific slice of the market that I sell to, what is it that they want? And how is what I'm saying to them already landing? And how does it compare with what else is out there?
Yeah, totally. And it's so much more useful. I mean, for example, we're an agency, there's no way we can do A/B testing. So how the hell are we going to get, some feedback on our messaging? So to actually
and also A/B testing doesn't tell you shit about your messaging.
Indeed, so it's good or bad, but you don't know why.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a measurement technology or methodology, really. You can measure how if B is better than A and by how much if you have the volume for it.
Yeah.
So Wynter works, if you have the traffic for it, it works in conjunction with A/B testing, where it feeds the test hypothesis. Here's qualitative data. Let's make the changes, address the friction, and increase user motivation. Let's test whether these changes have an impact, and boom, now we can measure how much increased messaging is helping our bottom line.
Maybe you can explain the concept of, everyone knows product market fit, but maybe you can explain the concept of message market fit.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a subcategory of the same thing. So product market fit is really about does the product solve a need, a problem, give users something they want. So it's about the functionality of the onboarding, the user experience, the actual value, how good the product is, largely speaking. So the message market fit is before the sign up. So will they even consider signing up and exploring your product? So that's the message market fit. And so your message needs to resonate with an intended audience where they're like, oh, wow, yes, that's exactly what I want. Oh, that speaks to my problem. Oh, that's what I want. So it's really, there's the jobs theory, there's a job to be done, meaning there's a progress I'm looking to make in a certain arena. And currently I am dissatisfied with my options to make that progress. And so if you find that hole, that's you get message market fits. Like, oh yes, exactly. I care about this issue. I want it, and now I sign up, and now people, good messaging won't save a shitty product. So it's kind of like you're managing expectations as well, obviously there.
One of the things that strikes me about you is you seem to work really fast. I mean, maybe that's just a mirage, something I see in my mind. Like, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Twitter, you're always posting content. You've a couple of businesses now running Wynter, and seems you're making good progress. But in your mind, kind of, what is the advantage of speed? Is the advantage of speed in the fact that you get feedback quickly, or is there some other kind of separate advantages as well?
Yeah, well, all the businesses I have are small businesses, and a small business cannot afford to be slow because of the bigger companies can overrun you with money. And so, but the bigger companies are slow to take decisions. And the bigger they are, the harder and slower it is for them to have any new type of strategic initiative, especially if it needs to go to how many layers of managerial approval, budgeting process, risk mitigation, legal compliance bullshit. It just takes a while. And of course, there are, I guess, notable exceptions out there, but mostly big is slow. But they have more muscle and more money, better talent, because they can afford far better people than you have. So really, The only advantage you have is speed. You can change fucking everything overnight, and I have multiple times. And I'm a big fan of the Jeff Bezos matrix from the 90s, where like, how fast should you decide? Where it's like a 2x2 matrix. On one axis is irreversibility, how reversible is the decision, and then the other is impact. So the only time to decide slowly is if this decision is irreversible and high impact. So then in all other cases, decide fast. So really the way to move faster really is to decide faster. And so of course you need better data, cleaner data faster. Because if you decide purely based on opinions, it's limited. I mean, I'm a big fan of actually deciding on insight and wisdom. And this is like the older I get. When I was in my 30 years old, I made fun of hippos, the highest paid person's opinion. What does a hippo know? Now that I'm getting up there with my seniority, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like these guys who are like the CEOs of big companies, they've motherfuckers have earned it. They've made some good calls and bad calls, and they've seen it all. They've been in the industry so long that they see the patterns that the junior folks miss. They don't see how everything fits together, and that's like insight. And in like classic jobs to be done, like Clayton Christensen, who's author of that and all the disruption books he's written, he talks about the insight, and it's actually this unquantifiable moment when like everything falls together in your head and you can just see.
Yeah.
Really,
so with
like,
Wynter, you saw the path ahead with Wynter, and it's like instead of sitting kind of overthinking stuff, your intuition just kind of guides you. Like, okay, I know this is right. I know everything fits together. Just go fast, and we can do it.
Yeah, and also like things, smaller things, like we launched the brand as copy testing. We had a different target audience, different name, different focus. We were on consumer panels focusing on e-commerce and freelance copywriters, and it was called copy testing. And so relatively quickly, I want to say like 6 months after launching, we changed the name. And that was, I had data, but like the data never tells you what the right decision is, And the data is also debatable. There's always this fog of war. It's never clear. And so really you need to gamble. That's where wisdom and age comes in real handy. Like in consulting they have the gray hairs, like a type of a consultant that's you need the gray hairs who've seen shit. I'm not there yet, but I've lost the hair anyways. I'm not getting gray.
Next is gray.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically I see it as decision speed is the advantage of is how you can outmaneuver the competition, especially the bigger guys. When I launched my agency, we were an all-purpose digital marketing agency, and so one day I told my team, we're gonna fucking change everything, and we're gonna just do CRO. We're gonna fire our developers, and they were like, "What?" My business partners were like, "It's like I don't believe in this new direction, and like I'll believe there's any potential there if you close the first retainer for this." Of course, history is that we changed our CRO company. So there's a lot of times we've changed a lot of things all at once. Yeah. So
let's talk about metaphorically speaking, kind of building a moat, and like obviously a moat is a defense system, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
How do you think about building a moat in the context of Wynter and starting a business?
I'm a big fan of the book 7 Powers, which is all about the 7 kinds of moats you can build, and I think some of them are only available for the really big guys. Like Facebook, then LinkedIn, Facebook, they said, and linked, and they have network effects, which is very hard to have as you're just starting out. It's very hard, or economies of scale that Amazon has or Netflix. It's very hard to have them as a startup. But then there's also like brand and cornered resource and things like that. So what is most simplistic terms? I like anything that's hard. When something is hard to do, that's a moat. because whatever is easy to do, everybody will do.
Like an agency.
So here's an example. So with CXL, e-learning business, right? And when we launched 5 years ago, it was still not that easy to create high production quality courses. But since then, the technology landscape has completely changed, and the camera landscape. And so everybody has access to good lighting, good cameras, and cheap platforms to build your own course, and like all this distribution products that are out there. So the tech really has been solved. And so what has happened is that everybody and their mother has their own course online. So, and then what do you differentiate in terms of product-based differentiation? So you could go for like what Reforge is doing. They have the Silicon Valley heavy hitters, which is a cornered resource. Not everybody can get, ex-VP growth of Uber to be the instructor. That's a cornered resource. They're all drinking buddies with each other, and so they own the resource. So you could really, in e-learning, as a product-based differentiation, if you have access to a certain type of people. So take masterclass. What is the cornered resource there? Is all the Hollywood celebrities and all kinds of celebrities, and also the amount of money it requires to hire them for a course. With they on average about $150,000 for an instructor. Yeah, that's hard to replicate, right? So there's a moat right there. Now, but if it's like anybody filming themselves, so there you don't have a moat. So now with CXL, we are building a new type of an e-learning product, which we call task-based learning. It's in private beta right now, and building the product is very hard for us. And whenever we have these internal debates about like conversations, like, oh my God, this is not working. We've been trying this and that, and like all these problems here and quality problems there. And it's like, I love it, because the fact that it's hard means that other people, it's going to be hard for them as well. And now the faster we figure it out and finally get to, all the things that we're solving, we have a big advantage. So that's one thing. In Wynter's case, you asked what's my moat there. Really, it's not software. It's not the software part, because it's very easy to copy UI. Very easy. Anybody who wants to can. Like you log in, see what it's like, and then tell your designers and developers, build me this. Right? That's not hard at all. Which is also why we're seeing so much sameness in SaaS, because it's just easy to do that. So what is a moat? The moats are brand, which is a really great moat that most everybody can build. And of course, if you have more money, it's easier to build it because you can spread awareness that you exist. Because brand and positioning and all those things, they live inside the mind of a user. So like the first mover advantage thing is also like, who is the first to position in the mind of the user? So in my case, what I'm doing is that I'm promoting this idea that you need to do message testing. And this is the first product out there that really does this. Yeah. There are like workaround ways that you could hack it together with some other tools, but really, it's a pain in the ass. We make it easy. So now, the more people find out about it, I'm positioning myself as, oh, I need message testing. That's Wynter. So it's like a job. You connect the tool to a job to be done. If it's like, oh, I need heat maps for SMBs, what's a good tool? Hotjar is first in my mind. And maybe then I think of like Mouseflow, and I don't even know who else might be in there. And if it's like mid-market, I'm thinking full story. And if it's like enterprise, I have another set of tools. So most buyers have like a very limited consideration set. If I need, I'm a mid-market growing company, I need a CRM, HubSpot, and maybe there are some other ones out in there. Like you look into 3, maybe 5 tools. And same goes for agencies, right? Like if I need the best in the world content marketing agency. Who am I going to look into? Oh, there's Siege Media, there's Animals. I don't even know who else is in there. I need a best CRO agency, and so on and so forth. And so the brand mode is positioning yourself as the best one for this, whatever use case, but whatever the progress is that the user is looking to make. And so first to market, that goes a long way. And there's a lot of staying power and momentum. And the second is like my panel. because you can copy all my functionality, you can't copy the panel. And same goes for your audience. If you have a blog readership, a blog audience, a social media following, a reputation, those are the things that they can't really copy. Or my friend Jonathan, who runs Client Boost, he's like all about how many reviews he has. And reviews you can get there if you copy, but like we all know how hard it is to get a huge amount of customer reviews. It's just a pain in the ass. And so if you say, hey, I have 1,000 reviews on G2 or Capterra or Clutch or whatever it is, that's an advantage. That's a
Yeah.
moat.
Got it. Nice. Okay. What about my kind of final question closing up, which is not really related to messaging or marketing as such, but more like building businesses. How do you approach hiring? It's a little bit out of left field. It's a really, really tricky one. And I heard you recently talk about T-shaped marketers and hiring generalists. So when you were looking to hire for Wynter, did you kind of say like, okay, I think I'm going to need like a copywriter, I'm going to need 4 devs, I'm going to need this, and then you went out and hired them? Or did you kind of say like, I'm going to hire some generalists and we're just like going to make it happen? Like, how did you approach that? Or how did your philosophy change with hiring?
Yeah, well, it really depends on the constraints you have for hiring. That determines a lot. Like who you can hire, who can you afford to hire, because it's easy to hire yourself out of business. It's just we need to balance these things. And also my point of view in hiring has evolved to, so when I was starting my first company, CXL and so on, hired mostly very junior people with the goal that we can't afford to hire really senior people, so let's hire for talent, train for skill. Now the problem with that approach is that, and you probably know this too, it takes a fucking long time to train for skill. If somebody's just starting out,
even with CXL.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a long ass time. I mean, to train a proper CRO person, on average, it took us 2 years before they were good. 2 years is a long time. And
Definitely in
so
the agency world.
if you can afford to buy somebody who is like already there, I recommend you go that route. You just hire for skill and train for more skill. That's what
Yeah.
I would say. So the seniority of already knowing shit is very valuable. And there's another perspective here, which is most companies do exactly the same things. So all do bookkeeping. You need some, candidate sourcing, HR. You need, some sort of development. You need, like all these things. You need sales, and you need marketing, you need SEO, you need PPC, content marketing, all these things that you need. And now, depending on who you are, like, what is actually that makes you you? So, like, I recently spoke to a founder of an e-commerce company, and they're doing about 20 million a year in revenue. They're selling shoes, manufacturing, and selling direct to consumer. They don't own any factories, or all manufacturing is outsourced. The whole supply chain management, which factories to use and where, and it's all outsourced. Third-party logistics, outsourced. Warehousing, with the third-party logistics, outsourced. PPC outsourced, SEO, content, everything is outsourced. So really, the only thing they do is brand management and strategy. Everything else is like, we're not a manufacturing business, right? We're managing the brand of the shoe. So I think that is the way to go. So is in the old status game, how entrepreneurs brag. Well, I'm about 100 employees. Look at me. It's like, well, what's the average revenue per employee? Like, we're like, what are we bragging about? And I guess a lot of it comes from like the fact that it feels kind of like jerky to say how much money you make. And it's like, oh, we're making 100 million, so it's, you don't want to say that, so you use a proxy, which is how many employees you have, so we could like calculate kind of like how what I'm talking about over here. But I think like the actual role model should be like Instagram. That was like, I think about 10 people when they sold for $1 billion. Talk about leverage. And in order to optimize for companies, speed, being really fast, and optimize for high productivity, I would hire the most senior people you can afford. to manage the 20% core of what makes you you, and you outsource everything else. So instead of investing in talent management, you invest in vendor management, which is a skill that needs to also be developed. And obviously, in order for all of this to work really well, is you need all the standard operating procedures and processes, and all these things that help you scale. You know, usually in the first year of the life of a company, you have very little of those things because you need a lot of brute force. But then after a certain point, you need process. And the more senior people you hire, they've seen the processes. They know the processes needs to be set up. They can see shit when they come across it, whereas junior people do not. They don't know what good looks like. And but another advantage of working with vendors is that, so let's say it's content marketing, right? So I might hire Linda as a full-time content marketer for my business. But then Linda has a hard time with the boyfriend, and then there's COVID, and the neighbor is sick, and the cat just died. And Linda has problems, and then becomes demotivated and doesn't like this other colleague. And so basically, I need to deal with all these problems. I need to take care of Linda and her emotional problems, and deal with the conflicts, and maybe my feedback was not good enough, and then she's angry at me. Like, most of company management is people management and problem management. That's what a manager should do. And if you read books like Radical Candor, which is all about managing people, you'll learn shit like how many hours a week should a manager spend on managing people and feelings versus to work. Really, ideally, out of a 40-hour work week, 30 hours goes just on giving guidance, feedbacks, and managing emotional problems. In a small business, you just don't have that time. Like, I'm managing people. I'm not investing 30 hours in guidance and holding their hand and giving feedback. And so, if instead of Linda, I have an agency, I have an SLA, I have a service level agreement. I'm buying 8 blog posts a month that should be published and of this quality. And I don't give a shit how it gets done. If their writer is sick, they're going to replace it with some other person they have. And I'm getting a product, and this is a real company, and I could rely on it. Whereas my employee can have a bad day, and then it's like the quality is not there, and it's my problem. I need to so it asks for a lot of my own management time. So another way to move faster, like you have senior people managing vendors, and there's a service level agreement. Shit needs to be shipped, and that's it. So less problems and more speed. Obviously, there's a vast quality difference between agencies. It's like people hiring people. There are shitty agencies and there are good agencies, so that you can still go wrong. But then you need to have the processes in place to easily switch them out so that the agencies, ideally, it's a long-term partner for years and years. But if need be, it's fungible. We can just switch them out. So that's kind of like a broad scope.
Like it, interesting advice. Definitely given COVID and everybody's going remote, and you get the geo arbitrage, right? If you hire across, what I'm sure it's much more expensive to hire someone in Houston than it is in Estonia, right? So yeah, sure. Makes total sense. One big question I wanted to ask you was, how many pull-ups can you do now?
I think last time I tried, my max was 22.
22, not bad. Yeah, I went to the gym for the first time in a long time a couple of weeks ago. I tried to do some tricep dips. I think I managed almost one and failed epically. I was like, I'm definitely not going to try pull-up.
This is all volume training, so you just keep at it. Every other day, you do as many sets as you can, basically, as you have time for. So I would love to get up to 30 pull-ups. But now, in order to get from where I am now to 30, the amount of additional volume training I need to put in is just insane. So basically, what I need to do is you need to do 10 sets of 80% of my max every other day. And that takes a long fucking time. I'm questioning whether that's the level of effort I want to put in. How much do you care about 30 pull-ups? With 20 pull-ups, you can get to with less effort. I think like you do 4 sets every other day, you'll get to 20. It's not a problem.
What do you do, Pep, in your spare time? Do you have any interests outside of work? Maybe a little less.
Well, I'm married with kids, so I have 2 kids. I have a wife, 2 cats. So all of my free time really goes to my family.
Which is a
I
good
don't.
question. How do you balance that?
Yeah, so I'm just gotta
You're doing a lot.
be effective, efficient with my time at work. Gotta be good at prioritization, not fuck around, not doom scrolling on Twitter. You know, and I'll work 8 hour work weeks. Sorry, work days.
Okay.
Work week would do, I guess, good. So 40-hour work weeks, and then I pick up my kids from school, um, and play with them and cook dinner, and so I'm a family guy.
Nice. So it sounds like you've definitely mastered prioritization is a massive one, isn't it? And you see it definitely with more junior people when they come into a role and they have all these different things thrown at them. They really, really struggle to understand, like, okay, where the hell should I be prioritizing my time? And maybe that comes back
Yeah.
to the T-shaped thing where somebody is kind of has a little bit of experience across everything, so they can they have like a better line of sight and they're able to prioritize.
And it's also about management. So if you read about the PayPal mafia, so how PayPal, all these heavy hitters who now run Silicon Valley, they used to be in PayPal together. And if you read about what the management process was like, was all about every single person has one priority, one, and no meetings can be had with anybody unless it's about their one priority. So it really helps to prioritize your shit if you know what's your one priority, and the priority can shift from week to week and week. And I think this priority management, I don't know how to spend my days. Like if you're unclear about priorities, and of course if you have priorities as in plural, also a problem. Another thing to do is scale through delegation. So I cannot scale myself. I mean, I could temporarily, I can put in more brute force hours, and sometimes I do. If there's a deadline, there's something, I brute force it. The occasional overnighter is still happening, rare, but sometimes. And so really is, if I have something that needs to get done, you ask like, who can do this for me? As opposed to how can I get it done? How can I do this? It's like, who can do this for me? And so outsourcing again, delegating and outsourcing. That's the way you can scale yourself. I can still maybe have 30 projects that I want to ship. And of course, my financial constraint is an issue, and that's how you prioritize. Okay, actually we can do 5, but time should not be a constraint unless you have no money at all.
I promise this is my final question. This is one thing I always wondered about you, and this is about delegation. But how do you kind of like, for example, I get your email from Wynter, I get it from CXL, see you on LinkedIn. Like, how do you kind of outsource yourself in that way? Do you have, like this week I'm going to write, this day I'm going to write one post, and you just literally just like bang out a few bullet points and you give it to someone and they distribute it? Like, how do you scale like your thoughts in that way?
Oh, I write all my own stuff and post all of my own stuff. So usually on most days when I come to the office, the first thing I do is I post something on social. The timing is, I try to do the first thing, but sometimes I have meetings and so, but as early as possible. And I'm always thinking about shit and taking notes. As soon as an idea comes to me, I DM myself on Slack, and so that's my LinkedIn and Twitter stuff. I do write the Wynter newsletter. This is all actually me typing it in, and with CXL, it's like the on my mind section is my words. But sometimes I have people help compile the different section and gather the info and put it together. There's room for me to improve there in terms of process, but like when it comes to like social media and authenticity and so on, like I don't believe in ghostwriters, really. Also, I make a lot of fun of Neil Patel, so like then I cannot be like him. I need to say my own shit.
All right, let's not open that can of worms. Thanks, Pep. Appreciate you doing this. Let's do the cliche thing at the end of a podcast. Where can people find you?
Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm on it daily.
And the newsletter as well. I suggest people sign up to that. It's good content. And the Winter Games as well. Check that out. Really, really good. Cool. Thanks, Pep. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.